All right. I'm pretty sure we're live. Welcome, everybody. Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide is the game. I am your host with the most, the Schwantz27 here. And we've got a great Ultros League Practice seed for everybody on the cards today. First of all, let me know if the audio volume is all out of whack. The last stream that I streamed from my PC, it was a little quiet, so we want the audio balance to be a little bit better. So you could certainly be critical of me. My feelings won't get hurt. Okay, maybe a little bit. I won't broadcast you next time you want to. I'm totally kidding, by the way. But what are we going to be watching tonight? Well, if you're here, then you probably know about Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide, the open world Final Fantasy VI randomizer. And if you don't, then what does this mean? Well, things are randomized in Final Fantasy VI, or 3 if you have the US version of it. All the items and chests and shops are randomized, the characters that you recruit, the commands that they have, the Esper locations, the magic spells that are taught on these Espers, they're all randomized, and the goal is to unlock Final Kefka. And as you see here, it is a 6-character, 9 Esper requirement. We start off with 3 characters, so we have to find 3 additional characters and 9 Espers in order to unlock a skip to get to the switches part of the boss gauntlet in Kefka's Tower. You need to either recruit 9 characters or find 12 Espers. So those are the goals that we're going to be working with today. Everybody is whatchamacallit. I forgot to gatekeep the race. So it looks like we are going to be we're going to be starting now. So, since we're starting, I gotta be on my toes. Here we got gaahr with tools. We got Edgar with slot, and we've got jumping Mog. So this will be interesting to see as our characters start off here. We've got Mog and gaahr and Edgar. Thankfully, they're all right next to one another. And let's start the timer as well. So we start off with 3, as I had mentioned earlier before. So our three characters are going to determine what we're going to be doing, basically this entire seed. And we see infinitefluff already heading towards one of Edgar's checks, which is on the Figaro throne here. We'll see what kind of reward that we get. Meanwhile, Gaahr and Doubledown are looting in World of Balance Narsh. Nobodywar went all the way to Albrook first, World of Ruin, picking out some fixed dice in a barrel. That should come in handy for sure. Hopefully one of these people, maybe Mog, our jumper, could use them their fixed dice. That's the best way to use fixed dice in my opinion. Digging a hero ring out as well. There was a noise blaster, and we do have one of our characters with tools. I believe that is gaahr with tools, so at least he will be somewhat helpful. Economizer and gembox and earrings in that Narsh relic shop, so really looking and pointing our runners towards magic, perhaps, over there in that seat. Edgar is at the front of the party, so all of the shops in the Figaro Castle are half price, so there is a cheap drill to be had with a tools user. You could expect somebody to go pick that up. Doubledown is going to continue up to the top of Narsh here, where Lone Wolf will await him. It'll be interesting to see if he also does Kefka at Narsh with his smaller party here. And that is Fenrir, our first Magicite of the evening for infinitefluff. Fenrir is kind of an important one, right? It will help with calmness protection in our final battle. That's a great one to see early on. Nobodywar heading to World of Ruin, South Figaro. And Gaahr is in the Returner's hideout. So all of our runners going in wildly different places here. So, by the way, if anybody has any questions in the chat or wants to comment on audio balance, please help me out. I will be answering questions, and want to make the stream as best as possible for everybody. Thunder Shield is what Lone Wolf is hanging on to. Double Down decides that he's going to go for the Ghost. So this is not a character at Lone Wolf. It is either an Esper or an item. And we'll see what we got. It is a piece of magic. It is Tirado. So Double Down, our second player on the board with a piece of magic. Did not see what either one of the Espers taught yet. And it looks like he's not going to be doing the Kefka at Narsh battle just yet. And there were Super Balls at the Returner's hideout, so it'll be interesting to see if some of our runners decide to go back to the Returner's hideout after doing a little more looting, selling a bit more things, and perhaps picking up some Super Balls to get past some of these early bosses. Super Balls are a consumable item that you use during battle, and they'll do a multiple of 256 damage to a multiple random amount of targets. So they're very good early on because they have, you know, sort of a flat, static 256 multiple of damage. So very good to see early on in a seed. And if our runners decide to make use of that, it is up to them. The first 10 to 15 minutes or so of a seed is usually getting some free checks under the belt and then perhaps doing some looting of various towns to figure out what we've got. Nobodywar has gone to the World of Ruin side of things. Meanwhile, Red Jacket over there in the pot for South Figaro. That'll be good because Edgar can naturally equip it. We'll see if anybody else can equip it as well. Nobodywar sees that Mog can use the fixed dice, so that is good. And we have dried meat, so that is our Velt check here. And it is a soldier sprite, so that means it is also a piece of magic. As Double Down picks up his Fenrir, that is Golem for Nobodywar. So, another important Magicite for the final battle, teaching Ice too as well. So that's a pretty good one there, with a decent spell. Lots of earrings and Atlas armlets in the shops I'm seeing, so a lot of good support, damage increasing relics that we've found so far in the seed. Gaahr heading down into the basement of South Figaro. Nobodywar is in Miranda, picking out a plumed hat from that box. There actually is a second treasure chest in Miranda, all the way at the other side of Miranda, so we'll see if he goes back into Miranda to check the armor and weapon shop and to pick up that other chest. Gaahr getting a Thunder Shield and some cash money in the basement there. So remember I said there were Super Balls in play. So we'll see if he decides to go pick them back up from the Returner side out. And Nobodywar takes off the Moogle Charm to grind this fight with Lethal Weapon. Yick. This is one that might take a little bit, but thankfully he's got that fixed dice from that Albrook play earlier on. And that's what you hate to see, Launcher. That is an ability that takes your party down to fractional pieces of HP. So that's never a fun moment here. Infinitefluff looks like they will follow Gaahr into the basement of South Figaro. Double Down is in World of Ruin South Figaro, so similar to the South Figaro Castle, where Edgar can provide half off. There's a Thunder Shield in the barrel there. Similar to how Edgar at the front of the party provides half off to shops in Figaro Castle, it also applies to World of Ruin South Figaro, the town, as Nobodywar escapes with one person with 1 HP in a dream there. Whew. He had to be feeling the pressure. And he is going to go sleeping it in. I love it. We have an in count of 1 so far in this race. This is not something you see every day. Gotta love it. Real MVP of the stream there, Nobodywar, with the sleeping at an inn. There is also an armor and a weapon shop there. I'm not sure if he didn't see it or if he already looked through it and I must have missed it. But it looks like he's going to go out of the forest and grind in the desert. So this is a different biome, which means he will get different enemies on this random encounter. And it is some pretty easy ones. These are enemies from the very beginning of the game. They don't have very much HP. So this should be a relatively easy fight. Unfortunately, they don't give out very much XP. So, yep, there you see they all ticked over and died. 5 magic points, not a not a lot going on. And here it is. Nobodywar is heading over to the weapon shop here. Maybe he found something. Nope. Nothing great in there. There is another item here in this box, and it is a memento ring. Unfortunately, I mean, it's an okay item. It'll protect you from instant death spells, so if you run into Doomgaze or some other annoyances, it will definitely help you out. However, I usually just sell it for some cash money. It's about 7,000, I think it usually sells for. There's a couple of Thunder Shields that our runners have picked up that will be useful. We have gaahr with tools, we have Mog with jump, and we have Edgar with slot. So this is a pretty decent set of starting commands here, especially finding a drill. That's Bolt 3 and Life 3 on that Esper that gaahr has. I think that was the one from the Figaro Throne, so very nice there. Tyrannosaur is the battle here for Nobodywar. This is going to be a long fight, however, it does give a lot of XP. So we'll see if they decide to stick it out here. Tyrannosaur is one of my favorite random fights to fight as well, because it does, if you eventually get a user that has rage on it, the Tyrannosaur rage is Meteo. Yes, that Meteo, the same one that Sleep does in the final battle. So there you see almost 4,000 XP for that fight for Nobodywar. So that's going to catapult him up in levels very high up. And gaahr is going to pick up his second piece of magic here. Throwing the dried meat at the soldier. Double down, hitting the reset button. Didn't quite see what it was. If anybody in the chat wants to point it out, just let me know. So far, the runners have done most of the free checks. Double Down is the only one who went up to Lone Wolf. So he has an Esper in Tirado that our other runners do not have yet. That also has Strength +2 on Fenrir. Wow, that Esper is stacked. Gaahr, meanwhile, taking on the second of Gao's checks here at the Serpent Trench. Gao is actually my favorite character in Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide. He has double the chances at great commands. Also double the chances at really bad commands. But I love his checks. The Velt check will guarantee an Esper or an item. And the Serpent Trench is a great way to get some levels at the beginning of his seed. Giving dinosaurs meteor sounds harsh. Yes. Very ironic there from Square. Nobodywar is outside of the Opera House. So I don't think he's going to go in the Opera House yet. He can go in it to take on the dragon. Dragons are shuffled amongst themselves, and they are scaled relative to your progression in this particular set of options. And they give a ton of XP and MP. So if he's looking to learn some of the spells that he's earned, that's a great way to do it. Meanwhile, infinitefluff picking up his second Esper there with Golem. Double Down did head over to Albrook, so he also is going to be rewarded with some fixed dice over there in the pot. And Mog can equip them in this particular set of options. It just so happens that it's part of the 33% random equips that he can do it, and he has natural jump. So we're on the lookout now for a Dragon Horn Relic, which will allow multiple jumps in a turn. Infinitefluff still on level 3, and looking to head down the Edgar set of checks. So the first one here is the Tentacles check, the Figaro Castle Engine Room. You have to complete that check before you go to the Ancient Castle, and that's a Minerva in a chest there. Great pickup for Infinitefluff on a treasure that I know I almost never get anymore. I used to get it all the time, but now I don't. That'll be very helpful. Ice Shield as well, another chest here in the South Figaro Cave in the World of Ruin. Pulling out some goodies. So we have at least 2 Thunder Shields and 1 Ice Shield in play so far in the seed. That is a Merchant Sprite leading the Thieves down into the Engine Room. So that means that this is either an Esper or an item as a reward. This is not a character. And gaahr is showing off his knowledge of the undead enemies. This is something you could throw a Revivify on and say, see you later. Nice knowing you. Great XP and MP. Learning some spells there. And I believe he's going to be at the end of the Serpent Trench at the end of this battle, so we'll see what's waiting for him on the docks of Nikeah. It is Edgar face down, but that is a dragon horn. That is huge with a natural jumper there. That is a great reward, even though it is considered a quote-unquote dead check. And Double Down taking the lead in terms of progression with his third Esper there on the Veld. And it looks like Nobodywar is going to head to this dragon here after grinding some levels against a couple of Tyrannosaurs, which, as I said before, takes a little bit to kill, but it gives you a lot of XP. And it's Niles and Frazier, the cranes, sitting on top of this disgusting day-old pasta. Let's see what the strategy is here. There is one Super Ball and a couple of shields. Make sure you do not throw the Thunder Shield at the left crane. Left loves lightning. Speaking of things that love lightning, actually I'm kidding, the Storm Dragon does not love lightning, it's actually weak to lightning. That's what Nobodywar is going up against here in the Opera House. So Nobodywar definitely has the levels advantage so far, but he has not completed checks like some of our other runners have. Infinitefluff deciding to eat or to toss that shield that does a unblockable maximum damage tier 3 elemental spell. So while it would be nice to save it in order to teach some of his party members Bolt 2, he decided that now is the time to break it, and that's not necessarily a bad decision. It gets you through the fight. Nobodywar, meanwhile, does take out his dragon there. And there are Minervas for sale in that shop there. Half off Minervas as well. So gaahr is going to be selling a bunch of things in order to potentially buy some elemental protection, because Edgar can equip it. There is a sniper in the inventory as well. One of the, I would say, A-tier pieces of damage in the game. Not necessarily up there with the big swords, but it does do a 3 times damage proc potentially to floating targets, and much of the final boss is floating, and a lot of the bosses in the game are surprisingly floating. So it's a pretty good weapon to have. Double Down also showing off his undead random encounter knowledge, throwing a Revivify on the ghost in order to easily get past that fight. Nobodywar seeing the Merchant Sprite here, leading the thieves down into the Figaro engine room, and it looks like gaahr will be following shortly behind. So our runners are converging all on very similar places. Infinitefluff getting past that first fight there after cracking that shield, receiving another Esper, that's Ramuh. Unfortunately, Edgar was not alive, or that was not Edgar, I'm sorry, gaahr was not alive to obtain the XP rewards from that fight. So we'll see if he goes and rectifies that in some way, shape, or form. Remember that Infinitefluff has already gotten the Esper on the throne, so the next step for him is to go down to the Ancient Castle. There was an Illumina as well from that dragon drop, very nice. So Nobodywar's tactic of grinding some levels, then fighting a dragon to get even more levels, or rather grinding to get some levels to beat the dragon and getting more levels, paid off right there with that Illumina. I don't think anybody's going to get that until much later on in the seed, perhaps. Immediately puts it on Edgar. Slots is actually a pretty decent ability through the early and most of the mid-game, but we're not going to argue with an Illumina. Double Down is probably going to be excited for this Dragon Horn here at the end of the Serpent Trench, especially because he did go to World of Ruin Albrook and pick out the fixed dice in the barrel and gave it to Mog, who is our natural jumper. You see how much faster that fight was for Nobodywar of the cranes. And he picks up his second Magicite there. Yeah, I think both nobodywar and doubledown are the only runners that did pick up the fixed dice from Albrook here. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on their runs in order to see how much faster they start killing things. Especially early in the seed, fixed dice is very good. It sort of tapers off towards the end as more randomness happens. Speaking of randomness, gaahr throwing a Super Ball for the paltry 256 damage. You hate to see it happen. F's in the chat for gaahr. Meanwhile, there is Mute on Ramuh, which is a good spell to learn for the final battle. Will neutralize a part of Tier 2. So very, very nice. That first monster in a box there was a Telstar, not one that we want to see, because it doesn't really give us very much. It gives us a hat, and most of the hats in this game are pretty useless. Doubledown is also heading to the Figaro engine room, so it looks like all of our runners deciding to get the Edgar checks out of the way early. With this set of characters, Mog and gaahr, having only 3 checks combined, and we already saw it was on Edgar's throne, and we saw what was in the Serpent Trench and the Veld for some of our runners. You know, our third character has to be at the Ancient Castle at this point, because we did a peek at Kefka at Narsh, and that was not a character either. So our fourth character is down at Ancient Castle. Who's it going to be? Let me know in the chat before nobodywar gets to it on the screen. I'm going to say Celeste. Oh, I was close. It was Terra. So Terra is character number 4. And nobodywar is our first one with our fourth character. And Terra does have Runic. But Terra also has usually pretty good magic power. So we're probably going to see with some of those great Espers, Terra being leaned in on magic. The other monster in a box down in Ancient Castle is Spectre. Spectre is actually undead as well, so you could just toss a Revivify on it in exchange for a Hyper Wrist. nobodywar attacking the next dragon here, and it's the Ice Dragon. Unfortunately, we did not get a Flame Shield. We got a couple of Thunder Shields and an Ice Shield. And I'm completely sorry I did not give anybody in the chat enough time to guess who character number 4 is going to be. I didn't put it together until I ran down all of the possible checks and realized, hey, this is where our character has to be. nobodywar pulling out Morph, which is the other of gaauhr's 2 abilities. So Morph will actually double your damage for the duration that you are morphed. So this is a great usage of Morph here on a fight that might take a while, because dragons, even though they are scaled, they are still pretty tough bosses. And you can definitely see gaahr pumping out the damage there with that, that magic. And that is the Ice Dragon down for nobodywar. That's Dragon numero dos there, for those that press the SAP button on their remote control. Interesting that infinitefluff did not pick up Terra before fighting this dragon, because then Terra could have learned basically any spell, because dragons will grant 50 magic points as well as a ton of XP. But in this set of options, we are recruiting at party average, so she will be the same level as the rest of our party when we do go ahead and recruit her here. gaahr spending money on that Minerva is going to put it now on Terra. Seems like a smart idea. And nobodywar is actually our first one out of the Ancient Castle. And Terra is the way forward in this seed. So we shall see what our, or who our next character is. It's got to be at one of Terra's checks. So Terra unlocks 5 different checks. In the World of Ruin, if we're going to stay here, she will unlock the Mobliz Funbaba attack. Unfortunately, that means that you have to set your party down to 2 players, because Fun Baba will blow away 2 of your characters in the first engagement, and then you'll have to fight whoever the random boss is with only 2 characters. So I don't foresee our runners going there. You can actually peek what the reward is from one of the kids in the basement of the Mobilist town. If we head over to the World of Balance, there are 4 different checks, the first of which I anticipate most of our runners will gravitate towards is the Cave to the Sealed Gate, because that unlocks the Imperial Base with its some 13, I believe, treasure chests in that basement. Plus, there are other treasure chests on the way to the Cave to the Sealed Gate, and there's no boss to fight at the end. Another one of Terra's checks is climbing up the Zozo Tower. You know, music is a 10, for sure. Unfortunately, got to wait in that conga line behind everybody slacking off at work. There's also the Welk check in the World of Balance, where you could sort of peek what it is. If it's an Norsh Guard, then you know it's going to be an Esper, an item, and if it's a character, you know that that character is the reward there. And lastly, and I made this lastly on purpose, the Leet River is also a Terra check. It has a lot of forced encounters. It has some save points along the way. And it is a good way to get some levels very early in the seed, but it is not it's not a favorite in the Worlds Collide community. Meanwhile, nobodywar is heading into Narsh, so he might do a little bundle, like some home and auto insurance here, because remember, he has not checked Mog's Lone Wolf check yet, so there's Terra Welk and Mog Lone Wolf, try saying that 5 times fast, and Kefka at Narsh, so we'll probably see a bundle here. Infinitefluff is picking up some more Super Balls, or was at least thinking about it. Super Balls probably tail off in efficiency around level like 15 to 20 or so. Your characters by then are probably doing more than enough damage to kill most things. So you want to buy some Super Balls in order to get past the early bosses, but not too many here. Buying a stack of shurikens just in case we come into somebody with a throw command along the way. I like that play. It's very smart. Shurikens don't cost very much, and about 30 of them is basically enough for an entire seed, and it's usually under $1,000. Yeah, jumping with Sniper is certainly a move you could do. And it looks like gaahr is heading over to Mobliz, just opting not to switch worlds. It was a set of Marvel shoes as the reward for the dragon, by the way. That is the best relic that you'd never use, because there's always something better to use. So, to me, that's normally a money donation. Doubledown is digging in the monster in a boxes here, looking for that Katana Soul with the offering, I assume, because we have fixed dice and we have snipers in play, both of which are good for the offering. And the little girl is asking no, please don't take your brother away, Edgar. And it looks like gaahr is saying, sorry, kid, we need all the muscle heads we can get. So it is Sabin down here as the reward. However, gaahr is going to have to fight Fun Baba, get 2 of his 4 characters blown away, and then with only a party of 2, is going to have to take out whatever the random boss is here. Meanwhile, it is Ifrit at the Welk Gate spot, the Ifrit Shiva fight. Thankfully, we learned Ice 2 on one of our very first Espers, so this fight should not be a problem. Gaahr getting Mog and Terra blown away, leaving Edgar and Gao standing. And Sabin will come in and join the party at level 3, so he's pretty much dead. Ooh, and this is not a fun fight. This is one of the endgame bosses with Inferno. And the thing about Super Balls is, as you see, it does damage to a random number of targets. And for this Inferno fight, we really want to focus on the part in the middle. So Super Ball is not exactly the best in this particular fight. Inferno is weak to lightning, and that is Celeste there at the Welk Gate with Dance. So I was slightly off when I said Celeste was was going to be our character number 4. She's actually character number 5 in the case of Nobodywar. In Worlds Collide, you do start with some dances, and the dances are randomized amongst the environments that they are in, and there is no concept of stumble in this particular set of flags. That stumble flag is actually off. Sabin, although he is level 3, is actually helping out this fight by using the Super Balls, so good on you, Sabin. And Nobodywar is going to continue his way up the mountain. He's going to pick up Esper number 4, and we'll probably do Kefka at Narsh with 5 characters, because then you could have a full party of 4 for this particular battle. So he really probably enjoyed seeing a character there at the Welk Gate. And Inferno is down. We do have a vanilla Sabin with Blitz. So we'll see if gaahr decides to keep Sabin in the party, or if he jettisons Sabin to the bench. Checking out Sabin with, magic stat of 23 is not exactly clamoring to say, keep me in the party. Most blitzes are based on magic power, and a magic power of 23 is pretty low. Magic site number 4 for Nobodywar there at Lone Wolf, and Doubledown is heading to the cave at the Sealed Gate, which is where I thought everybody was going to go, but what do I know? That's why I'm the commentator and why they're the racers. Infinitefluff, finding his Ifrit fight, unfortunately did not learn Ice on all of his party yet, so is opting for Meteor, which is a non-elemental spell. It costs a lot, it doesn't do a lot of damage, but it's an AoE non-elemental spell, so it has its place. And Nobodywar looks like they are not going to do Kefka at Narsh either. Interesting. You figure if you're up there, you might as well take it, but he decides against it. Kefka at Narsh is a bit of a long fight, because you do have to sit through the cutscene, and you do have to sit through the soldiers walking past you, so I can understand why you wouldn't be rushing to do it, but if you're up there for the Lone Wolf, you are never going to be ever closer to doing Kefka at Narsh again. Infinitefluff is going to recruit Celeste there at the Welk spot, and decides to not put her into the party. Gaahr and Doubledown, meanwhile, are in the cave to the Sealed Gate. Nobodywar is heading back into World of Balanced Narsh. Remember, he went and looted World of Ruin Albrook, World of Ruin Narsh first, so the treasure chests on the outside of South Figaro are not the same in both worlds, so you can get them, you can double dip them. And it looks like that is Realm at the South Figaro prisoner area, and that's a Genji helmet. Dead check at the cave to the Sealed Gate. Realm with 37 magic power is going to be going into the party in lieu of Celeste, who only had 30 magic power. Celeste needs to work on her dance moves a little bit, it seems. Infinitefluff is picking the Esper over the item over here, which it makes sense in his position. Gaahr also getting the Genji helmet out of the cave to the Sealed Gate. So now that Nobodywar has 6 characters, he is just in Esper mode. So he has Magitech Factory 1 and 2, which can only be Esper item. He has Esper Mountain, which is a peekable check. He has the Mobilist check, which is peekable, although we know it's Sabin. And the Cave to the Sealed Gate. That is a $61,000 item there, because it said it would say glowing stone if it was an Esper for sale from the Zen Thief. And Double Down, being the people's champ here, he's taking a river ride on the Leet River, hoping to get something that will pay off. Unfortunately for him, there are enough characters elsewhere in the seed where I don't think that this play would pay off, but we are omniscient here in the booth. We know. And yeah, so make sure you go give Double Down a follow for doing doing our Leet River. There are the links to our runners' streams. Make sure to give them a follow. infinitefluff, meanwhile, is not skipping out of Kefket Narsh, so we are going to see what this is after all. We know based on the sprite that it is not a character. It must be an Esper or an item, so we'll see what this is. Meanwhile, nobodywar is searching for the Magitech Factory. Remember, Magitech Factory is a 3-part check. Parts 1 and 2 can yield only Esper or item. And then you do the minecart ride for the 3rd part. We'll see if nobodywar decides to go through with the 3rd part or warp out of the Magitech Factory then. And this is Tunnel Armor at Kefket Narsh, so a pretty easy boss here. And that is it for Shiva, down for gaahr. So that means gaahr will get his Celeste. So that gives him character number 6 as well. So he's just looking for Espers now. Speaking of Espers, that is Unicorn for infinitefluff, taking the Esper lead with 5. nobodywar is jumping into the garbage compactor here of the Magitech Factory, trying to dig something out, and wouldn't you know it, of course, Ultros would be down there. Ultros is weak to fire, which we don't have, but lightning will also do the trick. gaahr following the Narsh route up to the Ghost. He's going to pick up his 4th Esper, and if he decides to do Kefket Narsh, that'll be his 5th Esper. Double Down is about halfway through the Leet River here. So on the first route, you should choose left, because you actually have the least amount of chances at an encounter. And obviously on the second pass around, if you go up, then you're going to be on the Leet River for an infinite amount of time. So you have to choose left. The thing, if you choose the middle path, there's a chance that you won't get an encounter. Whereas with the left side, you always get one. But the left side has less of a chance of doing more than one. Whereas on the upward side, you have more of a chance to get multiple encounters. gaahr also is skipping out of Kefket Narsh. Was this some, like, gentleman's agreement, perhaps, to not do Kefket Narsh? I think if you're up there, you might as well go. Especially when you need Espers, and it is a merchant sprite. I did not see what the reward was at Magitech 1, but it was not an Esper. Based on my super handy dandy cheating of looking at nobodywar tracker here. So, if anybody in the chat saw it, let me know. It was another dragon horn. Well, we did get a pair of Dragoon boots in some of the chests, but we don't need another dragon horn. And gaahr decides, I'm going to take my talents to mount Colts. nobodywar picks up Esper number 5 there. And it is Magi Master at Home. Number 24 for Double Down. And nobodywar is going through on the minecart ride. Well, if you have 2 jumpers, that will certainly allow you to have less damage to your party. So if Terra can equip a decent item for jumping, then that's certainly the way to go. So given that that's what nobodywar decided to do with his party composition, that Dragonhorn is actually pretty welcome. Although I don't know if he ever went through the Serpent Trench to get the first Dragonhorn. It is a Magicite Odin for Double Down. So he gets Magicite number 5, and it is an endgame boss and Guardian here for Gaahr up in Mount Kultz. Alright, so nobodywar taking the minecart ride. That means there are 3 forced encounters and 1 boss before getting transformed, teleported outside, and there is a save point there, as well as a story heal before you fight boss number 2, and this is guaranteed to be either an Esper or a character here. So far, Guardian is giving Gaahr the business, so normally Guardian is just an HP tank, but when he starts casting things like shrapnel, that's when the fun stops in your party. Thankfully, we have Bolt 3, and Guardian, like most mechanical bosses, is weak to lightning. So I'm sure a bunch of these, and we will eventually be through this fight. Speaking of through a fight, that is Double Down, taking the Welk spot for Ifrit and Shiva, so that means Double Down is going to pick up Celeste. And that is Guardian out of the way. Infinitefluff, Cave to the Sealed Gate. This was a Genji helmet, which I don't understand how that's a reward. A reward. Speaking of a dead check, Gaahr gets an offering out of Mount Kultz. So he could use that with the sniper or with the fixed dice. So that opens up some options for him. However, he's probably wanting to see some pieces of magic at this point. It is Ultros number 1 as the first boss of Magitech number 3. You could tell because you don't see the tentacles, you just see a bunch of teeth. Ultros, go see a dentist. So we've seen Ultros 2, and we've seen Ultros 1 so far in this seed. Gaahr is going to yeet himself off here at Barren Falls. You do get a story heal prior to this fight. And yes, don't blink, it's another Ultros. This is Ultros 3. You could tell because he doesn't have enough space for Chupon to come in behind him, and it's not a pincer attack, which would mean it's Ultros 2. Double Down picking up his realm. Infinitefluff being disappointed with the reward at the end of the Cave to the Sealed Gate, and it is Welk at the end of the Magitech car ride. True. Bunch of dead checks we found so far, which is both good and bad. It feels bad because you're not getting rewarded, but if you're doing boss fights, you're at least getting XP and MP for it. That's the Siren Esper for Gaahr, so that's number 5 for him. Double Down is trying to buy his way out of the requirements of this seed, and that is not going to work, sir, because the Tzen Thief is selling an item. nobodywar finishing up his fight, and that is an Esper for him. And I'm sorry, I thought I said 61,000 before on Tzen Thief. It's $6,100. So it might be worth it to run out, save, buy the item, and see what you get. nobodywar peaks Esper Mountain, and since he's on his way out, I'm assuming that's a character. I didn't see what it was. You did not miss the race. You're just in time. We are about halfway or a little less than halfway through. So Odin, the Esper that Double Down got from doing the Leet River, has Doom and Berserk on it. So some pretty good utility spells there. Nobody else is probably getting that, Esper. You gotta think. So if we run into a Magimaster somewhere, he's going to be very happy that he did that. The Zen Thief is trying to hustle you, but you could certainly hustle him back. Because most of the items, as Tyrith points out in the chat, will sell for more than $6,100. At the very least. Ooh, there's an enhancer there in the weapon shop of Vector. It will give +7 magic power to whoever equips it, so throw that on your magic user as a stat stick. And we've got a couple of Magitech Factory, actually 3 Magitech Factory plays, all at the same time here. Meanwhile, nobodywar is swimming around in the Serpent Trench, and he's not going to be happy that this is a dead check. So, what checks have we not seen yet, chat? Well, we haven't seen Zozo. We have not seen the Opera House. We have not seen Imperial Camp. And we've not seen the Phantom Train or Collapsing House. So those are the rewards that we have left to see. Zen Thief is not an Esper. So at this point, if I was one of these runners, especially the runners that have Realm, which, by the way, we could do Owzer's Mansion. That's another one I forgot. Which leads me into my point. I would be gravitating towards Owzer's Mansion because you can also check the auction house while you're there in the World of Ruin J'dor and potentially buy up to 2 more Espers. But as it stands, we are still searching for those glowy, shiny rocks. And just based on numbers alone, nobodywar is in the lead with 6 Espers. He also has, I think, more levels than most because he took down 2 dragons already. infinitefluff grabbing his 6th Esper there with Crusader. Same thing with doubledown. Doubledown decides to not take the minecart ride. So doubledown will not be getting Esper number 7 there at the end. Infinitefluff will be doing the minecart ride, however. And let's see, doubledown. It's go-go. Okay, so that's a no-no for go-go for doubledown, and I don't blame him. At this point, we really don't need go-go. We have 6 characters, and the characters that we do have we have our party set, basically. If maybe we had, you know, someone with throw, or someone perhaps with blitz, then maybe I would suggest putting in go-go at this point, because go-go could use blitz for a second bum rush user, or throw-go, which is my favorite incarnation of go-go, of course. And doubledown is showing us something new on his screen in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. It is the Zozo Tower. But be sure to follow all 4 of our runners as they're showing us some excellent racing, and we can't have the show without them. nobodywar is actually following doubledown into Zozo. And at the Dataluma spot, we have Dullahan. Dullahan, funnily enough, even though it depicts a chariot with a horse on fire, is actually weak to fire, is not undead, and is actually floating. So this sprite makes completely no sense in terms of weaknesses and abilities in this game. We have some runners leaning on Bolt 3 for their spells. We have a couple with making use of Natural Jump Mog with Dragonhorn. We have nobodywar, who grabbed an Illumina out of the Opera House Dragon very early on in the seed. I also forgot to mark down dragons for the runners that defeated the Ice Dragon down at Ancient Castle. Yep, so let's go ahead and do that now. So he has 2 dragons and everybody else has 1. I knew that was sort of odd. Alright, so even though... ooh, it's a Genji glove. Another dead check. Ugh. At this point in the seed, you gotta be thinking, my runners, or the other runners, did not hit the dead checks that I'm hitting. Right? That's when you start hitting a bunch of dead checks in a row, especially like nobodywar. He just went through the Serpent Trench. He just checked the Zen Thief, and now he's hitting up Mount Zozo. You gotta feel like, oh god, some of the other runners, they didn't fall into this trap by falling for all of these dead checks. Oh man, oh my. And we'll see if doubledown decides to take Sabin here, as he is running a little low on checks, right? Because he saw Esper Mountain was a character. He saw that, so he hasn't done Owzers yet. Nope, it looks like he's going to leave that item there, or that character there, Sabin. But doubledown at least knows where 2 other characters are now. He knows where Gogo is, and he knows where Sabin is. So if he happens to stumble into a 7th character, he could go for skip in quite a hurry. Oh man, is nobodywar doing the Cave at the Sealed Gate? Ooh, this is... this is 3 dead checks in a row. Oof. Infinitefluff, meanwhile, taking out the Welk for his 7th Esper. Same goes for Gaahr, so they are in the lead with their 7th Espers, although Infinitefluff only has 5 characters, because they have not gone down to the South Figaro basement, nor have they gone to Mobliz yet. Gaahr is going to go and check the Collapsing House from Sabin. This is one you could peek. You could see what is holding up the Collapsing House. And the fact that Gaahr is our only runner with Sabin so far, I think we might have to give him the edge in terms of who's in the lead. It's very tough to tell in Worlds Collide who is in the lead versus who's not in the lead. The numbers sometimes don't do it justice if certain players have certain characters that are needed more down the rabbit hole, rather. But I think in this particular case, the numbers, Mason. What do they mean? That's what they mean. They mean that Gaahr has 7 Espers. Alright, and it was a soldier sprite holding up the Collapsing House, so this can be either an Esper or an item. And it is the Skull Dragon. Doubledown is heading up to the Tritox spot, which is also only an Esper item reward, so he's getting fed up with the dead checks. Or maybe not with the dead checks, but he's trying to somehow salvage 3 Espers out of the seed with what he's been given. Infinitefluff, meanwhile, is going to get his dead check out of the way at Zozo, and say it again, dead check Genji glove at the Collapsing House. I feel like these runners aren't making me do any work as a tracker. I'm not having to click any buttons when there's a dead check. Alright, so what checks have we not seen at this point? We haven't seen Phantom Train. We haven't seen Imperial Camp. We haven't seen Owzer's Mansion. That's pretty much it. It's an economizer from the dragon there in the world of Ruin Narsh. And we'll see if Tritok, aka Valley Garmander, is holding on to another Esper. Nobodywar is biting the bullet and is going after Sabin here because he's running out of checks. Unfortunately, I think most of the checks have been dead, haven't they? Barren Falls and Mount Colts and Collapsing House. I don't think any of those yielded an Esper. That feels awful. Speaking of feeling awful, Gaahr is heading to Esper Mountain and will find Gogo. And it is Dadaluma on Doubledown's screen. Everybody's favorite goose-necked, flying in need of a chiropractor boss. Is Gaahr going to take this fight? He decides, nah. You could take the fight, you could accrue Gogo, and then you're at a forced party reform, and then you could set your party size down to 1 for Zone Eater, but he's not going to do all that. Doubledown, however, is rewarded with an Esper at the Tritok spot, and it is Phoenix. Ooh. Inferno flattens Sabin on his face. Unfortunately, since we do not have Umaro, we cannot do the Umaro Yeti Cave spot. Nobodywar, however, does take out Inferno, which means that he is going to acquire Sabin as well. Character number 7 for him. So this is still anybody's race. Speaking of Umaro, there he is. At Imperial Camp. So since Gaahr is continuing down this rabbit hole, he's gonna get the skip, because all you have to do is complete Esper Mountain in order to get your 9th character. The auction house does have some glowing stones, so Doubledown is gonna put his money where his mouth is. Character number 6, finally, for Infinite Fluff. Yeah, so if we can get an Esper out of the auction house and an Esper out of Bowser's Mansion, Doubledown is in good shape. That is a $50,000 soft. You hate to see it happen. Alright, let's see what the auction house has for... Oh, it's an Imp Robot and he didn't save. So in the World of Ruin auction house, there is a chance to get an Imp Robot. It is the least likely thing to actually get out of the auction house. The odds are ridiculously small. However, with every item you buy, you make it more possible to get an Imp Robot. What runners usually do is they'll buy the $50,000 item to take that item out of the item pool, which means the $20,000 either Esper or item will show up more often. So that is the strategy for the auction house in the World of Ruin. That's why you saw Doubledown selling a bunch of stuff in order to get 80,000 golds in order to buy the stuff in the auction house. That is a big Yeti for Gaahr here. And he's heading right back to Esper Mountain to go pick up Gogo. So we'll see if he decides to turn around and do Gogo's check after getting Gogo, and that is an Ogre Nyx. That, I believe, is the $10,000 item, so you do not, I repeat, you do not want to purchase this item, because the only thing it does is it makes it more easy for the Imp Robot to come up. However, it also takes this out of the item pool, so you'll never see the Ogre Nyx ever again. I usually only buy the $20,000 reward and the $10,000 reward spot. Infinite Fluff and Thamasa here. Grabbing another red jacket out of the barrel, and it looks like we finally have our Esper Carbuncle, and Nobodywar is joining Doubledown in buying his way out of this seed. Please take my money. And first try. Ooh, it's Kieran. So there are 2 Espers in the auction house. This is a huge play. Remember when I said about 15 to 20 minutes ago that this is where I would go? This is exactly why I would go here. You can get up to 2 Espers in the auction house, and there is the check for Owzer's Mansion too. Infinitefluff, meanwhile, decides to take on the boss here at Esper Mountain, of which Gaahr is already fighting. And it is Senor Super Scrontium Senior Sir Behemoth. Oh, another Imp Robot for Double Down. So usually what runners do, after they get their first reward, or after they get their first Esper, is they go and save. Because it's actually faster to reset than to watch this cutscene. And that is the skip unlock there for Gaahr with Gogo. He did not put his party down to 1. So that means that he is probably going to go right to World of Ruin Narsh, perhaps, in order to do both Tritok and Umaro back-to-back. Because I didn't see a character when we peeked the Umaro hidey hole before. Question from the chat. Is there any other spot to get Espers besides Opera House? I think you mean Auction House. Yes, there is one other spot to potentially buy Espers, and that's at the Tzen Thief. In this particular seed, though, the Tzen Thief is only selling an item, not an Esper. Gaahr, meanwhile, visits the caboose in order to get the reward, and it is another piece of magic. So he is going to head through the rest of the Phantom Train. Even though you get the reward at the beginning of the Phantom Train, you have to finish it, or else you don't get it. Wow, Cure 3, Cure 2, and Magic Power +2. All right. Yeah, so the auction house can have up to 2 Espers. And the Tzen Thief, you could buy 1 Esper. Those are the only places in the game that that you could purchase an Esper. Otherwise, you have to either complete a boss fight, or in some cases, some of the checks in the game do not have fights associated with them. For instance, we saw earlier in the race, the Cave to the Sealed Gate. There are no required fights at the Cave to the Sealed Gate. You could just walk right through and get the reward at the end. That is, I think, the 3rd Imp Robot for Double Down. This is the sunken cost fallacy in real time on his screen, folks. Go out and save. Nobodywar and Gaahr are basically nipping at each other's heels here as they're getting their Espers at the Phantom Train. As the spoiled brat gets yet another Imp Robot. So, important thing to note that the Phantom Train boss, with a few exceptions, is always a back attack. So I usually like to put my party in the front row prior to this fight, because then it gets transformed into the back row. Well, welcome to Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide. This is a ROM hack. It is a open world randomizer for Final Fantasy VI. There's tons of information at the website, ff6wc.com. And yeah, I happen to be old school. I really like the this is actually based on the Final Fantasy III US ROM. So that is the input to the ROM hack software, and then the output you get is the randomized seed. So all of the things are based on the Super Nintendo names, etc., etc. So they're not based on the newer versions, which have the longer names. And that is Toilet Atma Down. Does Double Down have requirements? Did I miss that? Yes, he does. Because I didn't count him getting his Espers in the auction house. So there you go. So Double Down is our first player into Kefka's Tower, even after all of the Imp robots at 102.20. Gaahr needs one more Esper, and he will get the skip. So you'll see the power of the skip once Gaahr gets his 9th Esper here at the Tritok Cliff. He basically gets to skip the Inferno spot. He gets to skip all of the walking in the tower, and he just goes right through the boss gauntlet. Nobodywar is going to be jumping off of Barren Falls, which is yet another dead check. Man, he is picking incorrectly on every single one of these checks here. Ooh, and Gaahr is going to be skipping a rather difficult boss in Doom. Now, we have enough things to deal with Doom, but in Doom's second phase, he gets the image status, and he gets Reflect cast on him. So, very difficult to damage him unless you have things like big swords, or if you're jumpy, or if you have tools. Meanwhile, it is Magimaster in Owzer's Mansion for Infinite Fluff. That is a ghost sprite, so that means that it is a Magicite behind Owzer's Mansion. He still has some Super Balls left over. However, Magimaster's level is so high that Super Balls are not really an effective way to defeat Magimaster at this point in the seed. Double Down was, however, effective in taking out Doom, and that is another dragon down for Gaahr. Ooh, low damage 256 Super Ball roll there. Womp womp. And that is Nobodywar's final Kefka complete. Again, I forgot to increase the the Magicite number from the from the auction house. So that is his 9th Esper. Remember, he does know where 2 other characters are. So we'll see if he decides to go get the 2 characters for the skip, or if he's just going to go stock up on stuff and get the heck out of here. It is the blue dragon for Double Down. There's not a lot of water elemental defense in the game, but he's got Bolt 3, which is the weakness of the water dragon. And that's another dragon easily dispatched by Double Down. Meanwhile, Gaahr will be getting his 9th Esper here, and he will be getting the Kefka Tower skip. So even though Double Down was our first player into the tower, I think that Gaahr is going to overtake him here. Speaking of heading into the tower, Nobodywar at 105.34 is heading in. That is a Magus Rod, which does give plus 7 magic power, as you see there. Equipping it on Terra, which is the smart move. Infinite Fluff does take out Magimaster. That was an Esper. So he's just got to buy one from the auction house here. And he is good to go. Gaahr is warping out. And they are going to be heading into the statue skip. Double Down actually overloaded his party to take out both Doom and the dragon, so that's pretty smart play on his point. He's got to warp out, however, and go all the way through the tower, because he does not have the skip. It is Alexander as the Esper from Owzer's Mansion. It does have life 2 on it, it looked like. So that's a pretty good one. So what Gaahr is doing for the statue skip is the middle party actually fights 2 bosses. The left party will fight the Doom statue spot, and the right party will fight the Goddess statue spot. Alright, so we'll see if Infinite Fluff decides to go to the auction house. No, it looks like they are heading to Mobliz instead, which is where they will find that it is Sabin that is the reward here at Mobliz. Meanwhile, it is Doom fight on nobodywar screen, and here's Rexall for Gaahr. So unlike in the vanilla Final Fantasy VI, there is no zinger concept in Worlds Collide, at least in this flag set. There's an option you could turn to have the zinger concept on. And what that means is you cannot use the vanilla speedrun strat of using Odin or Raiden to kill this boss. You must take out the middle part. Thankfully, the middle part is weak to physical attacks. Has pretty high magic defense, but we do have our tools user, and we've got Edgar swinging a big sword, so that's not a problem here for Gaahr, who seems to be pretty happy. Meanwhile, infinitefluff is deciding to pick up Sabin. There's a minefield of dead checks that Sabin has, though. I think Mount Colts is dead, right? Imperial Camp... No, Collapsing House is dead. I don't remember if Imperial Camp was dead or not. Barren Falls was not dead. I thought it was, but that's where nobodywar picked up his go mode Esper. Checking the validation chest. Imperial Camp Azumaro? Yes. Okay, thank you. It is Vargas in the apple toilets, the Ipoos here. At the spicy chicken spot. Gaahr has a little bit of a lead with that skip. As we see, Doubledown is slightly ahead of nobodywar with maneuvering through the tower. So this is still anybody's race, folks. This is great. infinitefluff finding out the hard way that Inferno actually absorbs fire, as the name Inferno would imply. But, like most mechanical bosses, is weak to lightning, so Bolt 2 will do the trick. And that's Vargas down for Gaahr. That means the middle section for him has been cleared away. 2 more bosses, and then he could step on the switches to fight Kefka. Getting some real nice rolls out of Mog there for the fixed dice. And Doubledown using the morph ability on gaahr here to do double damage with the drill, which does ignore physical defense, but Rexall has very low physical defense anyway. Excellent use of the morph command. We don't see a lot of morph in Worlds Collide, but it does double any damage that you have. So we saw it used earlier by nobodywar to take care of a dragon, and we saw it used by Doubledown to speed past Rexall there. That is Sabin as the reward for infinitefluff. He just needs 1 more piece of magic and potentially 1 more character to get the skip. All right, right side boss is the Stooges. Each one of them has an elemental weakness and something that they absorb. They are all floating, so that's why you see the sniper doing some work there. The red one is the one we want to take out first, because that one will both heal and revive the others. Is absorbs fire, which means is weak to ice by the red costume. The one in the back, the blue one, I think is Larry, is the ice one. Will absorb ice and is weak to fire. It's also weak to instant death. and will run away sometimes if you leave him by himself. So that has helped me on more occasions than I'd like to admit. And then the one in the front is the Lightning Stooge. Will absorb lightning, but isn't really necessarily weak to the other two. You just gotta know, will absorb lightning. Oh, and it's a 1v2 situation here. I feel like I'm back in my old habits, casting for FPS games. Now 1v1 that gaahr is in. Nobodywar, meanwhile, finding Rexall and easily dispatching of him. Nice sniper procs there from gaahr. Juicy! Love the sniper. One of my favorite items to use in the game. It's not the most powerful, but it's definitely the most satisfying. I don't know if anybody else will agree with me about that, but... And it is a Genji shield at the Tizen Thief, of which infinitefluff paid a lot more in the World of Ruin counterpart than the World of Balance, 40,000 GP. And he is also going to be disappointed that this is a Genji glove and not the Esper that he is looking for here. The last boss on the left-hand side, doubledown, is actually showing to us first. It is Flame Eater, and as the name implies, absorbs fire and is weak only to ice. Will nullify lots of other things. Does not nullify water or wind, however. So if you're ever in a situation where you don't have anything to fight him, and you have Blitz, you could use Airblade, which is a wind-based elemental attack. If you have Throw, you could use a Water Edge. If you have Lure, you could use Aqua Rake. Or Clean Sweep. So, just some alternatives, if you will, to the ice that you usually throw at him. And that is Nobodywar cleared out his middle path. Doubledown has got the middle and left path cleared. Gaahr, all he has to do now is take out Flame Eater. And Yeety putting in some work here. Literally yeeting people at Flame Eater. Unfortunately, I don't think he's got any ice spells learned, so this fight is going to take a little bit longer than it took Doubledown, who had access to Ice 3. So Doubledown could catch up here. As gaahr is relying on the Yeti, which is something you never want to hear. That's Worlds Collide runners' worst nightmare. Relying on the Yeti. infinitefluff, meanwhile, getting the bad news that we have a Genji helmet. Nope, Genji glove. Genji something. Alright, well, this is a race from Flame Eater versus the Stooges here. Flame Eater is countering everything with Flare Star, which is not fun. It actually does damage based on the level that you are versus based on the level of Flame Eater. And, ooh, Doubledown could have taken a lead here, but he's having a bit of trouble against the Stooges. Doesn't really have anything to deal with Larry and Mo after using Ice 3 against Curly. Which, thankfully, is the one that heals everybody, so it's good to get that one out of the way first. But you kind of want to beat them all up. Looks like Doubledown knows that Larry is susceptible to instant death, so is going for a strategy of using a fractional magic called Quarter. Larry doesn't have a lot of HP left, though. Sometimes when Larry does have a lot of HP, that Quarter will do a lot of damage, actually. Gaahr is the first of our runners to be defeated with all of his boss gauntlet. Nobodywar just has one more boss to go, and Doubledown defeats his final boss. They just have to step on the switches here. Given the amount of dead checks, 117.30 is a good time to be fighting or going up against Kefka, all things considered. Very nice job out of our runners so far. Infinitefluff, meanwhile, takes down the fight at Barren Falls. I don't remember what it was exactly. But is going to get his 9th Esper, which puts him into go mode. We'll see if they decide to go and take a quick peek of a check to try and get the 9th character for the skit. That would be at Imperial Camp with Umaro. Double down, stepping on the switches a mere 30 seconds later. So this is anybody's race between our two. And it looks like we got a false start. Oh no. Gaahr must have accidentally taken the wrong party into battle, which means that Double Down is now in the lead. Oh, that is a costly mistake there. Hate to see it happen. But we do have a lead change, and you know what that means. It's time to change our music, boys and girls. Here we go. Alright, so how does Kefka work? Well, it's 4 different tiers, and if one of your party members is down in between 2 of the tiers, unfortunately, that means that you lose them. And since we didn't level up the other players in our party like you would in the normal vanilla version of Final Fantasy VI, that means they're pretty useless. So you don't want to have dead party members between 2 phases of the battle. First phase is 3 different parts. They're mostly physical attacks. The face is weak to fire and will death counter with Quake, so that's why you see a priority number 1 on him. The longer arm is susceptible to both petrify and instant death, so we do have some instant deathable things here. Or maybe not, because our Esper summon failed us. There it is. There is a Doom spell. And if the left arm is left for last, it will death counter with up to 3 shockwaves, so it's a good thing we get rid of him. And then all that's left is the short arm, which is weak to water, but we don't have that, so we're just going to go ahead and beat up on it. Storm Dragon over on Infinitefluff's screen wants to get a little bit more levels before they head into Kefka's tower. Nobodywar takes out his final boss before going up to fight Kefka. Lots of tiers. T-E-A-R-S. Not T-E... Nope, T-I-R. No, I could spell, I promise. T-I-E-R-S. That's the Illumina sword for Infinitefluff. They'll be happy to see that. Alright, Nobodywar stepping on the switches, 121 or so. There's about, I don't know, 3 minutes, I think, between him and Double Down right now. So there's 3 minutes between our first and third place runners at the moment. So this is very exciting. Anything goes here. And that's tier 1 down for Double Down. Gaahr does not have any instant death, or used it and it didn't work. So he's now casting Quarter as well, which helps a lot more on this tier. As you see, it does 9,999 damage to Long Arm. This Long Arm, I believe, has 25,000 HP or so. So use Quarter a couple of times on him. Meanwhile, Double Down is on tier 2. 4 different parts. The person in the back pointing away, that is magic. That's why you see Mute come out. That will neutralize magic throughout the rest of the fight. Doom will work on tools in the middle, and that's instant deathable. Tiger is weak to ice, so we want to take him out first, because he has all sorts of nasty spells that he does. And then Hit will death counter with 10 hits, so we just have to be ready for physical attacks there. And there it is. See you later, tools. And here comes the ice spells for Tiger. Tiger will inflict zombie on one of your party members. It can inflict end cross, which will freeze your team. And the only way to get out of the freeze status is to cast fire on yourself. So let's hope we get lucky. And double down does. Nobody is frozen. Gaahr is also joining him now on tier 2. And Morph coming out. So one thing about Morph is if you are in Morphed form between 2 tiers and it runs out, you could actually stay Morphed for the duration of the final battle. So we'll see if Double Down takes advantage of this glitch here, which is allowed in races. Nice heads up play. And ooh, Realm let the bodies hit the floor on nobodywar's screen. Hopefully he has enough time to get Realm up before switching to the second tier here. Otherwise, that may be a disaster depending upon what his party looks like, or what his bench looks like, rather. So Double Down is going to be doing a bit of weight tricking in order to make this this morph glitch work. Gaahr pulling out the meteor here. He did not get the spells that the rest of our crew did. Dealing 4,500 damage with meteor though is pretty good. Terra's magic power must be pretty high. Oh, and Mog is down for nobodywar as he transitions to tier 2. Mog was one of nobodywar's jumpers, so let's hope that's not a big loss here. He still has 3 out of the 4 members of his party, so it's not a total disaster. And Sabin, I guess, can be a the person that that heals everybody. Sabin does come with Blitz, which means he has access to Mantra, which is a healing ability if you don't have any heals. Learn your blitzes. This PSA announcement is over. And it looks like Gao's morph has run out. That is magic dead. That is tier 2 dead. And that means we have an infinite morph coming on Double Down's screen. You won't see it on the ATB bar, but he will remain in the morph state for the duration of this fight. Gaahr feeling the wrath of hits, death counter 10 hits. And since magic is muted, that is the only one left here. Hax is exactly right. I've never actually been able to do the infinite morph glitch. I'm just terrible at timing things. But that shows you how much better of a runner these people are on screen than I am. So make sure you give them a follow. I mean, you can give me a follow too, but I just said I'm terrible, so why would you do that? That is magic with the quarter and dispels death counters coming out from Gaahr. That means that he's good to go. Meanwhile, we have a jumping Imp Edgar. We have a Realm with 9 HP, Terra with 12 HP, and this fight is going off the rails very quickly for nobodywar. So he has to make a determination at this point with 3 characters down. A, do I reset and start this fight over again? B, do I try and kill one of the parts of tier 2 so I could actually have a chance of getting my party back up? Or C, just do what he's doing now, which is trying to get everybody back up all at once and hoping that nothing goes south. Tier 3 for both Gaahr and Double Down. This is a 2-parter. Girl in the back has 9,999 HP and absorbs all elements, so that's why you see Double Down using magic on Rest or Sleep, which is the other part, with 40,000 HP. We want to kill Girl first because Girl, as you see, will heal both parts of the boss and will actually revive the second part of the boss. So there's Girl down. Sleep has 40,000 HP, and when he gets under 10,000 HP, will cast nasty spells like this one here, Meteo and Train, which will blind and mute your whole party, and unlike in Vanilla, the evade bug is actually fixed in Worlds Collide. We'll death counter with a instant death special called Calmness up to twice. That's why we saw some of the Esper summons like Golem here. And Calmness gets blocked for double down. He is our first person up to Final Kefka, the last tier of this battle. Kefka has 60,000 HP. Will open up after your first turn with Fallen 1, reducing your party to 1 HP. Once he gets under 30,000 HP, we'll counter with things like Hyperdrive and Havoc Wing, which are nasty single target attacks. If he's under 10,000 HP, however, he'll counter with Ultima, which will probably wipe your party, which is bad. You do want to attack him during the Gaahr phase, which is the charge up for his ultimate move. It looks pretty gnarly, but it's not as powerful as, you know, some of the other counters and Ultima. So that's where we want to use all of our offense. And it looks like nobodywar has got his party back up. He gets knocked down, and he gets up again. They never want to keep him down. We'll see the strategy here from Double Down. Just remember, Fallen 1 is going to happen after the first turn here. The only person that did fight Magimaster was infinitefluff, so he's the only person that has a Mega Elixir from Magimaster, but it looks like we must have found one along the way for Double Down. So he's going to use that now once his Mog has landed back on the ground. And Gaahr is right behind him here, going into the last fight. Also on tier 4. Whew, this is very close. Gao gets beaten in the face, which means, unfortunately, the infinite morph is off. But now is the time, charging Gaahr, to hit Kefka with everything you got. So that's why we see shields coming off. That's why we see all the plays coming up. Gaahr, meanwhile, using morph on Gao at this moment here in the fight. Does have a Mega Elixir, so we definitely must have gotten it either in a chest or in a shop somewhere. Unfortunately, Double Down does not do enough damage before Gaahr comes out. That's probably due to the fact that Gao is taking a nap. Infinitefluff, meanwhile, is just on the statues, the switches rather, for his boss gauntlet here. Double Down is going to heal up his party after the Gaahr attack, just because you're in a counter-attack phase, and oh no, it's Ultima over on Gaahr's screen. Is he going to have enough to tank this? He does. And that also means that he's going to throw the shield here. Kefka's under 10,000 HP, and is that it? Yes, that's it for Gaahr. He is going to win 131-28. Excellent job, Gaahr. Woo! Unfortunately, Double Down is going to eat an Ultima as well. Thankfully, he's got enough HP to survive it. That means that Kefka is under 10,000 HP as well. So hopefully he can get himself out of this sticky situation. Oof! Havoc Wing taking out Mog. Double Down has got to get his party back up. Meanwhile, nobodywar is fighting on tier number 3. Infinitefluff is hitting Rexel with some Pearl Elemental weapons, I believe. That's why it's not doing any damage. So Mog is going to jump over the Gaahr here, and with Kefka having only 10,000 HP, just hit him with whatever you got. This should do it. And there it is. Kaboom, kaboom, crack, kapow. 1:32:41 is the official time for Double Down. I started the timer just a smidge late. My bad, everybody. So make sure you tell both Gaahr and Doubledown that they did really good in their race today. I'm sure that they would appreciate that. Very nicely done. And we got nobodywar on tier number 3. Oh, girl still has a lot of HP and just healed up the party for a lot more. So here's part of the problem with having a magic-based build going into Kefka is that it's difficult to hit girl for any amount of HP. Because again, girl absorbs all elements. So that's why we see nobodywar choosing some interesting strats to go after here. Oop, that's the wrong runner. I turned off the wrong thing. I feel like I'm in Spaceballs. You turned the whole movie off. Alright. I think I am joined by Gaahr and Doubledown. Having some slight technical difficulties with Discord. Alright, I'm gonna quit my Discord and open it back up. Meanwhile, infinitefluff finally getting past their middle bosses. Nobodywar choosing this opportunity to heal up, and he does cast Fenrir, which will cast the image status on the party. Terra is out of MP, which is why she was not doing any crits with her Illumina. So nobodywar wisely notices that, and that's why he uses an elixir on her. Okay, and we are finally connected with our first and second place winners for this evening, Gaahr and Doubledown. Congratulations to both of you on some insane times in this seed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Schwantz.
So, Doubledown, you were the first runner into Kefka's Tower, and then afterwards Gaahr said, you know what, I'm not going to stand for this because I have 9 characters, so I'm going to hop right over you with the skit. And Gaahr was in the lead at that point until he went up, stepped on the switches, started the Kefka Tower fight, or the final Kefka fight, and said, oh, wait a minute, I screwed up my party somehow. And had to reset right before starting Tier 1, and that's when you took over again. Then, about halfway through, I think the final Kefka battle, is when the switch happened. Gaahr was pumping out the damage like crazy. Both of you caught an Ultima, which is fun to see, but Gaahr ended up edging it out. So, let's start with Gaahr here. Tell us what you thought of your run.
There were way too many characters and not enough Vespers. And, like, that's the broad strokes version of it. But otherwise, I don't know. I think it went fine. I think I made a major mistake by not putting Realm in my party when I had the opportunity. Like, I didn't even look at her stats or anything. I just said, forget it. But otherwise, I mean, the offense was there. Bolt 3 Meteor coming through and pumping out the big damage.
Yeah, so your party, I believe at that time, you had some pretty good offense going. You had Mog with the sniper. You had Edgar, I believe, was rocking out with fixed dice, and you had,
He did not have fixed dice.
He did not have fixed dice. Okay, that must have been that must have been one of our other runners then. So for Realm, it was just a case of she's got a lot of magic power, and I'm going to lean on magic this particular seed. Is that what you were feeling?
Yeah, I had Bolt 3. Realm is normally in the neighborhood of 40 to 50 fixed dice, 40 to 50 magic power.
Sorry,
Jeez.
sorry, Gaahr.
Yeah, double down. This is exactly your fault. um, like even without looking at her stats, she was probably juiced up on magic. She probably could have cast Bolt 3, with the best of them, and I just didn't take her.
Well,
Interesting to hear that they were fixed dice, though. I did not find any of those.
Double Down, I believe, did find the fixed dice because he went to World of Ruin Albrook, which is where the fixed dice were located in this seed. So, Double Down, tell us a little bit about your run here and your strategy.
Well, there were way too many characters and not enough Espers. That's the broad strokes of it. I think I made a big mistake not putting Realm in my party. I mean, basically everything Gaahr said, I completely agree with. I saw Realm and I thought, no, I'm just gonna stick with the ones or dance with the ones that brought you. What's the phrase? I don't know. I was gonna play with the hand I'd been dealt. There we go. I'll just change metaphors entirely. So I thought, you know what? I've invested time, energy, and my personal love into Gao. So I'm not gonna get rid of him. And then after I realized, wait, Gao's awful. Why have I kept him alive? So that was a mistake. I'm sure that cost me because Gao was not really up to too much at the end. I think he was drilling till the cows came home, and the cows didn't come home fast enough because I couldn't push through the damage at the end. And then had some awkwardness. So and then I spent probably, I don't know, 4-5 hours at the auction house. That broke my spirit a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of sunken cost fallacy in real time, that was 3 or 4? It was one of the two imp robots there at the auction house.
Yeah, I mean, it was enough that I could have filled out another party in Kefka's Tower purely made up of imp robots. It was demoralizing. I'm going right to that guy's house and telling Mama about how many imp robots he bought in the hopes that it'll ruin their relationship and he'll never be able to buy imp robots for his kid again.
Yeah, that kid's a spoiled brat anyway. By the way, congratulations also to nobodywar who hopped into the booth. 1:38:02. So we had about like 6.5 minutes between first and third, which is pretty ridiculous. You guys put on a great show for everybody out there. So
yeah, this was fun from the very beginning. At least my route.
I don't know if I'd use the word fun for your route, considering you ran into what 4 dead checks in a row, right?
Yeah.
It felt pretty awful. Like and even in between there, you're like you reluctantly picked up Sabin as well, and then you're like, all right, yeah. Sabin opens up a lot of checks, and of course the first 2 you hit are collapsing house and the other one that one of the other ones that was dead. I forget which one it was. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was.
I declined the extra characters. I think I saw Gogo at Esper Mountain. I said, no, I'm not doing this Gogo stuff. And then I saw Sabin somewhere else, and I thought, okay, Seed, I understand what you're trying to tell me, but I'm committed. And then by that point, I'd skipped MTech 3 already, so I wasn't going the character route. And then, yeah, I mean, I wasn't even going to hunt for Setzer because I knew what was waiting for me in the skies after having been ganked by stupid Pulte at like the 15-minute mark. So, yeah, I didn't want any more of these awful characters either.
That's funny too because I went into Esper Mountain and I saw Gogo and I'm like, yeah, I don't want him. And then I go into Imperial Camp and I see Morrow and I'm like, all right, fine.
Yeah, I mean, who are we to argue with the will of the Seed? I'm sure you were in the same boat, but man, there was a period there where I was just looking around desperately for one more Esper just to get up to 7. Not even get to 8, not even get to 9. Right. I just wanted 7 so I could go to the auction house, which would be my doom, and could not find when I was finding Genji Glove, I was finding my second Dragon Horn and Economizer, but no Esper. Mm-hmm. And it was tricky. I thought I was gonna have to do Owser's Mansion at like the 1 hour mark.
Well, yeah. Owser's Mansion was Magimaster. Ooh. So Double Down, you were the people's champ this stream, even though you're second in the actual run, you're first in our hearts, for taking a ride on the Leet River and getting an Esper that had Berserk teachable on it. So Magimaster wouldn't have been a problem for you at Owser's Mansion, which, by the way, there was another Esper. So there are 3 Espers in World of Ruin Jador in the seed. So any of you auction house haters out there, watch this race back.
So, can I
Yep, sorry.
retroactively forfeit so that doubledown can win?
I don't want your
I'm
filthy
done.
pity, Gaahr. You've earned it. You've won this race. Now you have to sleep at night, having beat the Elite River rider.
So I also want to ask. I guess we'll start with Gaahr. You did not do Kefka at Narsh when you went up to do Lone Wolf, and you saw it was a ghost sprite. Knowing what you know now, that Magicite was hard to come by, would you have rethought that decision to actually do Kefka at Narsh then?
Knowing what I know now, yeah, I probably would have done it. I mean, like, it wasn't going to be Magic Master because apparently that was in Jador.
Yep.
So, on the
It was
other
tunnel.
hand-
It was tunnel armor. So.
Oh, it was tunnel armor. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I probably would have done it. What was the reward from it? Was it an Esper?
It was an Esper. Yep. Of course it was.
Okay. Yeah. So at the very start of the seed, when you first got Mog, I contemplated just going up there and then doing whatever the 2 checks were up there. But that's a very risky play given that I had no offense at that time. And so, like, had I done that, it probably would have worked out this time, but only because of Tunnel Armor being the boss there.
Yeah, so Double Down actually did go to Mog first, or Lone Wolf first, and you found an Esper with some pretty beefy stuff on it, right? I think it was no, the Fenrir Esper was at the throne. Never mind, but it was Golem, I think, right? At Lone Wolf. I'm mixing all my stuff up now. But
It was Torado. It was Torado.
Oh, that's. I'm sorry. It was okay. So it
I
was.
forgive you.
It was the terrible Esper. I was trying to make it seem like you did a smart play by doing that first, but
No, I did a stupid play. It's funny because I've gone back and forth on whether to open up with Lone Wolf with a Mog start, and I don't know if it's a real time save because I usually do it with zero intention of doing Kefka at Narsh, but I feel like it's nice to know early on whether Kefka at Narsh is a character or not. Like, I like having that information in my back pocket to know if I'm struggling for character progression later, that there's always money in the banana stand. I mean, there's always a character at Kefka at Narsh, and so
yep.
you can always go back and do that. And I think that peak early on is almost worth the sort of annoying walk up and down the mountain, but I think there's open to debate on that one, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right in circumstances too. Like, especially like this. My thought lately with Mog is I'm not like going into Narsh unless I have Terra, and we picked her up quick, so I went back there right away.
I've shocked you into silence with that.
Well, I was going to say, you then knew, right, that your character had to be either, at the Figaro engine room or an ancient castle, because you had sussed out the other spots at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I really like about it, is that exactly that. It was 100% we knew where progression was. It was, of course, not one of the first places like the Serpent Trench that I was hoping it would be, but we knew it would be in one of the Edgar checks, so I thought, well, that's nice at least.
Well, let me pivot to nobodywar, who did something different than I think the rest of the runners. You looted in the World of Ruin for a little bit. Then you took some grind fights and got some Tyrannosaurs, which is great, great XP if you actually take them out. And then you did the early Opera House Dragon, which yielded you an Illumina. Talk to us a little bit about the strategy with your opening of doing some grind fights followed by a dragon to get your levels underneath you early.
It was all just with what items I had picked up early. It was that dice that was in Allbrook, and I found a Thunder Shield. Decided who was going to do what. Edgar was going to be the caster. I wanted to learn the magic on him. I did get that Golem Esper. Gosh, it was from the belt. So I wanted Edgar to learn those spells before I went and did all of his checks. My normal pregame or early game is grind a few levels before I do anything. And I'm like, oh, this magic's really good. These dice are good. Let me kill this dragon quick. I want to be extra beefed up. I don't want to worry about anything. Like my fault lately has just been like being overconfident with equipment and being underleveled. So I decided to make sure everybody was a little bit beefier and stronger before I started to do some stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I think at the point where everybody realized, oh, progression is that ancient castle, you definitely had the most amount of levels compared to the rest of the runners, for sure.
I love Edgar as a starting character because that's like it plays exactly into my game plan. You loot quick, you find something you can break the game with, you grind, you get a spell, you get any kind of power you can, and you blow through all three of those checks within 10 to 5 to 10 minutes. And the other two were, like you said, they're almost like one-offs, Mogs and Gals. So my main focus early was Edgar.
All right, so let's go back around. Start with Gaahr again. You were the only runner, I think, to grab the skip with 9 characters. Since you knew where all 9 characters were at that point, were you like, yeah, I'm gonna save some time with skip. I gotta go do it.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw Gogo, I was at 7 of 9. So initially, I was like, okay, I can probably find something at one of the 2 remaining Saban checks I had at that point. So, but then as soon as I saw the Yeti at Imperial Camp, I was like, okay, I know where 2 characters are. Let me just go ahead and get the skip. I'm still down 2 espers, but I think I can make up that time. So
Yep, that makes sense. Before I let you go, any other thoughts about the seed in general?
No, I thought the seed was fine. A few too many dead checks, and like I said, I wish I had more espers early on. But I mean, like it wasn't a slog to get through or anything. The offense was all there, and so yeah, fine seed. Were you doing all of the restream stuff yourself?
Of course I was. Come on now.
So big shout outs to you.
Thank you, thank you.
Because that's solo commentating for people is not easy. In addition to like doing the tracking, doing the restreaming. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh, my ego. Thank you so much. But yeah, congratulations on your first place win. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, and thanks to my fellow racers, except for Double Down because he won't eat chocobos.
I heard they're delicious on the grill.
Exactly. All right, have a good evening.
See you later. Double Down, any other final thoughts for you this evening?
I mean, I wanted to talk a bit about some of my favorite chocobo recipes, but I'm going to leave that aside. We'll save that for next time. I think I would just echo everything Gaahr said, middling seed, but, we made it work. It was a really fun race. Really, really enjoyed the race. And he said all the nice things I was going to say about you, Schwantz. So,
Oh, thank you.
I'll repeat it anyway, though. I mean, seriously, I'm sure everybody in the chat knows, but this wasn't a scheduled race. This was something that Schwantz hopped in and I thought, you know what? People are going to do a pickup race. I'm going to take it to the next level. I'm going to do my regular Schwantz masterful job and deliver some hashtag content to the world. And you knocked it out of the park, as you always do. So thank you, Schwantz. Thank you to the community for watching and enduring this nonsense. And yeah, I mean, join Ultros League.
Well, there you go.
Join Ultros League next season, I guess I should say.
There it is. There's the link to Ultros League in the chat. I even made a command for it. But yes, thank you for deciding to race Double Down. Appreciate you offering to be featured on stream. Can't have the race without the runners, of course. Yeah, the seed was sort of a lot of dead checks, but that also means your characters are going to get a lot of levels, which makes the more end game bosses a little bit easier to swallow, right? So
yeah,
a little bit of a trade-off there.
They were swole, but no, it was a fun race, and I mean, big thank you to all my fellow racers, except for Gaahr because he won't drink Moogle milk. That's just a thing, a hang up of his, and so I can't thank him for the race. But everybody else was awesome. I really enjoyed it. So thanks, everybody.
Yep. Catch you later.
Bye.
And nobodywar, any other thoughts for you as infinitefluff does finish 151.33. Very nice job from him.
GG's to him. Yeah, I had a really good time tonight, and just wanted to say thank you again for stepping in and getting this all set up and put together.
Yeah, no problem. Well, listen,
Glad people enjoyed it.
you haven't even watched the stream back yet, so don't praise me until you watch it back first. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Things for you did get a little sketch on
Yeah, I
tier
had some
2.
notes. Yeah, well, yeah, that even tier 1 and into tier 2, like I felt like I was just losing so much time, and I had some notes down. It was just like my late game, like it came late, like what I thought, like when knew I had like some good healing. Like I picked up the Siren Esper late, like that magic power 2 Esper, but I had kind of just been brute forcing everything with jump. I picked up my favorite weapon, the sniper, and had 2 jumpers with 2 horns, and it was a lot of fun. But I wrote down notes when I had hit my 6th character at 32 minutes. It was like 6 and 5 or 6 and 6. Well, it took me another 50 minutes to get 4 Espers and finish the tower. Like, this was so, like, weighted to the back end of the seed. It was just, like, it was so quick in the beginning. And it's just, when you hit a pause like that, and yeah. But I had a blast. Thank you again, guys.
Yeah, for sure. Jumping's always fun, right? And the sniper procs are just delicious. This whole seed, loved it.
Yeah, that's like underrated. One of my favorite weapons with a jumper, with anything.
So, but yes, again, as I said to Double Down, but forgot to say to Gaahr. Sorry, Gaahr. Thank you for volunteering to be featured on Restream. Can't have the race without the people on the stream. So thank you again, and it was awesome to see. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Awesome. Take care.
All right, sounds good. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, and with that, folks, we are going to be done. Infinite Fluff does not have his audio set up for an interview. So he is going to skip out on the portion of this where he thanks me for being awesome, and and I thank him for being featured on the stream, and we complain about how many dead checks there are in the seed. So we're going to save you for all that, give you the Cliff Notes version of it. So thank you for hanging out with me on a random. This is almost like Monday night Worlds Collide here. I feel like this should be a wrestling program or something. Anyway, I'm rambling. ff6wc.com is our website. Also, go follow us on Twitter at ff6_WC. We tweet out funny memes and announcements about things and various other goodies, so be sure to do that as well. I want to thank all of the racers for racing today. It was a lot of fun on the stream, as we did have a 4-way race. You could see the names up here: Gaahr, nobodywar, doubledown, infinitefluff. Go give them a follow. We'll be back on Thursday, I believe, is Moogle's first tournament. The losers bracket finals is between, let me see if I could pull this up really fast. Where is this bracket? I swear I have it. The losers final between Poot, Scooty, and Cosbot. So here is the bracket. There it is. So Poot, Scooty, and Cosbot in the losers bracket finals. They will actually be going up against Gaahr, whoever wins that match. So the winner of this pickup race gets to face off against whoever wins that. That is going to be this Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern time here on this channel. So be sure to set your clocks for it, your alarms and whatever, and we'll see you then on Thursday. Otherwise, I've been the Schwantz27, and this has been Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide. Thank you, everybody, and good night.